This question talks about counters in a bag, and it's talking about probabilities, and it's given us a table of some of the probabilities of each outcome happening. And so we can see here, for example, green, a probability of 0.16. Now just remember what that can be interpreted as. 0.16 means 16% of whatever you do, you typically get green. 0.4 means that 40% of whatever you do, you typically get yellow, and so forth. So the first question says, takes a random counter, work out the probability the counter will be blue. Well, what we've got to realise is that these are mutually exclusive outcomes, because you can't get a green one at the same time as a yellow one, because you're picking out one counter. So therefore all the probabilities can add up to the whole 100%, the one. So it really depends on how you like working with decimals. It is a calculator paper, so you could put it on in a calculator. But turning them into percentages to recognise that the interpretation of these probabilities is the percentage of something happening, then we know that these add up to 100%. So 16 and 24, 40 plus another 40 is 80. So the missing one is going to be 0.2 to represent 20%. So 20, 60, 76, 80, 100. Okay, so what's the probability of getting blue? Then 0.2 or 20%. It then goes on and talks about Mary puts the counter back in the bag. There are 125 counters in the bag. So work out the number of green counters. Well, like I said earlier, the interpretation of the probability is that 16% of whatever you do should be green. So the question is really saying, what is 16% of 125? So the quick way on a calculator to do that is to turn the percentage into a multiplier using the decimal that they gave you, really, and timesing by the 125. So on our calculator then, 0.16 times 125 equals 20. So the answer here then would be 20 green counters. So that's a reminder about probability involving mutually exclusive outcomes, where the outcomes can't happen at the same time. All the probabilities in that situation would add up to a whole one, and we can then work out the missing probability by doing a takeaway calculation from 1 or 100%. And then, because we can interpret these probabilities as the chance of things happening, the percentage of things happening, then green, 16% of whatever, then we get the amount of greens that we expect to happen. So a quick reminder about probability and mutually exclusive outcomes.